Greetings, Earth people, people of the planet Earth. This is Christopher from Sunra Arkive, joined tonight by my very special and esteemed guest, Jason Adam Voss, who you know from the Intergalactic Rare Sunra music channel on YouTube, among many other places, both interplanetary, terrestrial, digital, and analog. Jason, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. An honor to be among your esteemed guests.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's we're on a good run here. You know, my wife's been popping in for like, a couple minutes here and there on the live streams, and she's like, "How come you don't actually talk talk about Sun Ra most of the time?" And the thing is that I think is obvious for those of us that are big fans is that there's lots of researchers and scholars and books and people that are talking directly about the music from kind of a more historical standpoint. We certainly could and can and will do that, but part of this is about shining light on the Sun Rock community and all of the research and work that goes into kind of being a scholar and a collector. So um, I think it's really great to get your voice included in this run we've had here over the past couple weeks or so this year. Really talking to all the different people that are involved in the community and sharing Sun Ra's music and message out there. So it's very fitting to have you with us because you're a very visible, very consistent, and very high quality voice for Sun Ra fans out there uh, in the digital world. So thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
So we're going to talk about collecting Sun Ra and your channel Intergalactic Music here on YouTube, and we're going to get into
Try to make
that.
you pronounce that as many times as I can.
What's that?
I'll try to
Intergalactic?
make you pronounce that as many times as
I'm
possible.
I'm getting better at it every time I say it. It was a tongue twister at first.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always had a problem with that, but intergalactic.
Yeah.
I spent the entire week just doing that for 45 minutes to an hour a day to prepare. So
I
I
thought
think
it'd
I
be
got it.
searchable, but Google likes to autocorrect it. So
It does. And YouTube, if you
the
search for
needle,
intergalactic,
yeah.
it likes to bring up lots of results for the Beastie Boys.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh, well. But
And golf.
let's start by reading our immeasurable equation for the week before we get into our conversation. I've been really enjoying this exercise. So this week we have a piece called "Another Fate," and this is from the James L. Wolfe, Hart McGeerkin, Wait a While Press version. Another fate. To rise above all the cultures of the land is to appreciate all. Yet to be apart and apart, above the scene of many lands, the ills of man are seen, and simultaneously the potentials of greater intent. Another fate, better than anything they have ever known, hovers quietly, ever just within reach. The great intent of being beyond the intermingled scheme of good and evil. Beyond good and evil, beyond life and death, is beyond the cycle, the O of earth. The circle is the earth, the full degree of the circle is the measure of the O of earth. And thereby the oath, the measure of the oath, is the measure of the way, which is the abstract path or code. Another fate by Sun Ra from the Immeasurable Equations. Are you a fan of the poetry, Jason? Either written
Yeah.
or recorded?
Yeah, I have delved pretty heavily into it at various points. I haven't really spent a lot of time with the the Corbett versus Dempsey like facsimiles that came out a couple years ago, but that's been really interesting looking at it and the kind of original published context as opposed to in alphabetical order. And I'm used to the Hartmut and Wolf, Kirk Wolf version.
Yeah, Corbett versus Dempsey did a beautiful job with those facsimiles. They're just gorgeous. And yeah, I haven't spent as much time actually reading directly from those. I'm more like just sit and look at them and enjoy them as kind of the ephemera pieces
Yeah,
that they are. Um, yeah, but they
they're
did
in a sealed
really
bag
nice
that I'm
thing.
afraid to open, but when I do, it's really interesting to have it in that you know tactile version.
Yeah, to get a sense of what it was like to have the originals. Because I never saw the originals. They were
Yeah, me neither.
they were too rare and long gone by the time I became a fan.
I
So
did
how
kind of a deep dive into the This Planet is Doomed book and
Yep.
the space poetry LPs and sort of sorted everything out as far as uh, which track is which poem in the book and if it's in immeasurable equation. About a third of it is published and two-thirds isn't, and matches up pretty closely to the recorded version. It's clearly transcribed from those tapes, but it's a little sloppy in the book. So
Yeah.
I kind of have a half-assed attempt at doing redoing those transcriptions going.
How long you been working on that for?
It was like a pandemic thing that it's only half finished and I haven't really picked back up again.
Yeah, that happens with Sunrod projects. There's none of them are quick, and it's really
Yeah.
easy over extended amounts of time to lose focus or lose steam.
I do have a pretty complete like table of contents and index for it that the book is missing.
So obviously you were just doing that for enjoyment and interest, but did you have any plans to do something with it when you were all done as far as disseminating it, or was it really just a research project for yourself?
Yeah, just kind of a personal, uh, my way of like studying the material.
Yep.
Uh, that was my first exposure to the poetry was getting that book. I think I pre-ordered it when it first came out,
Yep.
so it's been a source
Interesting.
of interest and frustration over the years since then.
Yeah, those are great records too.
The records are great, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, all of the Norton records, whether music or poetry that Michael Anderson curated, that Norton Records released on vinyl and CD, are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I don't know if they're still in print or not, but any of you out there that haven't heard them or don't have them, definitely hit the Norton Records website and see if you can still get copies. Because I would imagine once this pressing is gone, they won't be repressing.
I think they're gone already.
Yeah,
I'm not sure though.
because I don't know if you remember that those predate the official launch of the Sun Ra LLC and the 2014 iTunes releases.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was like, I think that was the first big archival project that Michael Anderson did, other than like, transparency. That was right at kind of the tail end before the LLC really started in earnest. So I get the impression that they don't plan on reissuing in the same form any of those releases that predate the Sun Ra Estate LLC.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think for the time being, at least, they're destined to just be out of print records, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. I don't, I'm not a streamer or a digital downloader. I don't know if they're available to purchase digitally, um, or not. Knowing Norton, since they're so much into doo-wop and rockabilly and vintage music, I would imagine physical releases is really their focus.
Yeah, there were
Currently.
digital versions, and I don't know. I don't think that it's available. Last I looked, maybe the fourth volume of poetry was available and nothing else on streaming services.
Yeah, and they're beautiful covers too. They're really nice to have on vinyl. They did a really great job with those. So when Jason did you start listening to Sun Ra? Like how did you get into it?
Um, I think I started doing radio at WCBN, the college radio station at University of Michigan in fall of 2000. So I probably pretty immediately would have been exposed to um, his music then. And the station at the time had 5 days a week from 9 to noon a jazz till noon program that played pretty adventurous jazz um, of all different types. And I got involved with hosting that um, pretty early on. And so that would be something that I'd always pull because we had a pretty healthy um, Sun Ra library with all the evidence, CDs, and impulse records and things like that.
Okay. So that was like what, mid 90s, late 90s?
About 2000.
Okay. So you're
I think
introduced
I
to
had maybe heard of Sun Ra when he departed. Might
Mhm.
have read something in like Rolling Stone or Spin or something. And in high school, I sort of got into jazz just a little bit, but never really Sun Ra. I knew who Pharoah Sanders was because I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was like a point of pride at the local jazz uh, club,
Mhm.
historical
Rightly so.
place that he was a hometown hero.
I was just listening to Creator has a master plan this week.
Yeah.
So at the radio station, I get the impression from things that you said that you had a important mentor there that kind of got you not just into radio but into Sun Ra. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Uh, you mean Michael G?
I
Or
believe so. Yeah, Michael G.
yeah, he had been around a lot earlier at the radio station. I didn't really get to know him until closer to the end of his life.
Okay.
Um, but there were a few different people that were around for the various times that the orchestra came through in the 70s, uh, 72 and 73 blues and jazz festival in Ann Arbor, and then 76, 77, and 78. A group called Eclipse Jazz brought them for what they called the Michigan or the Ann Arbor Jazz Festival. So there were various people around town that kind of have told me stories about seeing the orchestra back in the day. Came in '86. That was another notable show, and that was the one that Michael G had written up for the Ann Arbor News. Um, February 1986 show that somebody posted on Facebook just recently. I was able to get that recording, which I hadn't had.
So okay, so Michigan from '86, you said?
Yeah,
And
February.
what was the venue?
The Lydia Mendelsohn Theater.
Huh,
in Ann Arbor.
interesting. Interesting. Oh, I didn't see that. And is it an FM recording or is it an audience recording?
I think it's just an audience recording. It wasn't that great of a recording.
Yeah, Ann Arbor was always a real hotbed of support for the orchestra because of John Sinclair and that whole community.
Yeah, for sure.
So did your friend Michael mention so he was around for earlier shows and it sounds like now was he involved in radio or was he just a
Yeah, he had started at WCBN in the 70s, and then
okay.
for a long time he was a jazz broadcaster at WEMU, which is like a bigger NPR station at Eastern Michigan University, and next town over. Um, so he was a long time DJ there, and kind of after he retired from that, he came back and did a lot of stuff with WCBN again, and I got to know him more in the last 10 years or so.
Now, did he mention at all that the radio stations were at all involved in either promoting those shows, interviewing the band, or like doing simulcasts or broadcasts or anything like that?
Yeah, they broadcast the late 70s shows. I think maybe the whole Ann Arbor Jazz Festival got broadcast. I don't know. They probably just recorded it and rebroadcast it later, but I'm not sure about that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't recall tapes of those currently circulating around.
There's a 79 tape that I think is a FM from WCBN. Might have played on one of the NPR stations even back then.
Okay.
And as Campbell and Trent like to say, there is talk of a tape of a 1978 show. It exists. I haven't heard it.
Yeah, those elusive tapes that are purported to
The
exist.
movies that are purported to exist. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. You don't happen to know the date of that Ann Arbor '79 show, do you?
Yeah. I
It's not
did
ringing.
on my radio show over the summer. I broadcast it.
Oh, really?
I'd have to look it up. I think it was in September of '79.
Okay.
I could
Yeah,
be
I
wrong.
definitely haven't heard that one. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so and do you know if those tapes still exist in the library or public radio archives? Because they probably would have been recorded to reel, right?
Should have been recorded to reel to reel. I don't know anything about the
Yeah.
tapes. I tried tracking them down, but didn't really come up with anything. I suspect that there may be a lot of things like that that ended up in the dumpster.
Mm,
September 28th, 1979.
okay.
I think I've got it on my YouTube channel. If I don't, it'll be up at some point soon.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I have to admit I'm still really very old school. Like I'll be honest, actually, it was your YouTube channel, now titled Intergalactic Music, that really piqued my interest and got me listening to music on YouTube. Um, your channel's really well curated and has such a huge volume and range of material, but I never I really didn't make that jump personally, um, to really like using YouTube as a medium to search out and listen to rare Sun Ra live recordings or rare recordings. Your channel is really the first one that kind of showed me the potential for that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so where did that idea come from? How did you start? When did you start doing that on YouTube, and did it evolve? Was it a really clear idea from the beginning, or did it kinda take shape the more that you did it?
It kind of just took shape as I did it. It was another like pandemic thing, sitting around in 2020 without much to do, and the like there was like the Facebook groups and some other things like that seemed to be pretty active with people that you know had too much time on their hands.
Mhm.
It trickled into the Sunrise sphere, so people would be posting like some rare out of print things, and so I started dabbling and just uploading some things. And, the copyright robot didn't give me much trouble, and then I went a little crazy with it, and I had collected most of the like transparency CDs as they came out,
Mhm.
and you get these things, and there's kind of like buyer's remorse because like clearly not that much thought has gone into you know slapping a artwork onto it and putting it out into the marketplace. But they're all really interesting to listen to, I think, and they work better as free YouTube videos. So I uploaded most of that stuff, and I know you had done a lot of work on that Detroit set, but um, I figured that'd be something that'd be nice to have. And as stupid as it is, YouTube seems to be the best format for putting up things like that and having them be easily accessible.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, from an archival standpoint, that, um, everything will be retained in some kind of perpetuity, so that
Yeah.
when we're long gone, it'll still be here. And I think that, to me, other than the community and the access of YouTube, that's probably um, the primary attribute of YouTube, other than the fact that there's multiple tiers, for engaging it from free to paid. But hopefully, the fact that it'll be some kind of central repository going forward.
So I
So,
had uploaded like most of my CD collection and you know most of the out of print Saturns and things like that that I had come up with digitally. Um, didn't That was all kind of in a frenzy of activity and early pandemic shutdown time,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then I didn't really do much with it for a couple years. But over that time, I had accumulated like a couple hundred followers, and I didn't really think about having a channel at all. So it was just like up on my personal um, Google account under my name.
mhm.
Um, which
So
I
what
did.
inspired you at the time to do that? Was it more for your collection to have it in one spot that you could always stream from, or, as a fan that was looking for material, did you feel like that there wasn't a lot out there, or that what you found wasn't of good quality? Like, what was the driving
Mostly just that
idea?
there was a lot that wasn't out there, and you know, the it's like second tier material that the estate isn't, the LLC isn't going to want to really do anything with. Um, so uh, I don't know, just seemed like a good thing to have available for streaming, partly for my own convenience, especially later when I got into more FLAX, because like having I'm in a totally trapped in a Apple environment, and I've got to convert everything to be able to listen to it anyway. So it's
Yep.
really an easier process to make a video and upload it to YouTube and then listen as much as I want, then fool around with making an MP3 and then uploading it onto my phone and then, you know, trashing it later when my phone fills up and whatnot.
Right. And so what are your feelings as far as the streaming audio quality for YouTube, as far as that material goes? Do you feel like you make any compromises for the convenience and access to YouTube from a audio quality standpoint, or are you happy with it?
Um, it seems fine from a listening standpoint, especially for, audience recordings. I don't feel like you're missing out on a whole lot. For like archival purposes, it's a little bit compromised. Would be better to have, you know, a central repository of all the uncompressed audio. But other people, you know, are doing that and continue to do it. So I'm not that
And
worried.
for a general audience, those files and that process is really unwieldy, probably for a casual listener.
Yeah,
You've got to have a lot of time and dedication to deal with the flax and the archiving and the ripping and transferring and storing and all that stuff.
yeah. You know what these are?
Yeah, mini discs. Of course I know what they are. Come on.
That's my current project is transferring everything in real time off of all the mini discs I recorded from 2001 to 2006.
And what kind of is it, your radio show, or is it live music, or your band, or what?
Mostly live music, mostly bands that I was in, a few other bands.
Nice. Yeah, mini disc, as a audience taper was the entry point for me for being able to afford to get into live recording.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
I
do
had
it
always wanted
the
to, but
long
yeah,
mode,
cost prohibitive.
record it on the long mode. You get like 5.5 hours on a disc.
Yeah, I always tried to record at the best possible quality, and when the compression codec got to the point where you could kind of do theoretically lossless, just the convenience and the price point made it accessible, I think, to a lot of people that couldn't afford to get into DAT, um, for live recording, which I'm very grateful for because the kind of music that we tend to like, you might be the only person in the audience who's recording that particular gig.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and there's no way that I'm aware of that you can digitally get the content off of a mini disc, right? You've
As
got
far
to
as
play.
I know, there's no reasonable way. I think it's like possible with some specialized deck or something, but none of the consumer mini disc players have any kind of functional data export.
Yeah, I don't even have a functional player anymore.
And
I f-
it's kind of crazy that Sony brought this thing to market without that capability. I guess at the time it was an upgrade from cassettes, and they were worried about people, file trading, like literally copying their songs onto a physical mini disc and trading it with somebody or disseminating music that way. And didn't really see the internet coming and totally blowing all that out of the water.
yep.
So
Yeah,
I
mini disc
continue to
was
be
good.
frustrated with them over that. But I mostly finished ripping all my um, old discs.
Good.
Still
Do it
processing.
while you can. Are you finding going back to them that the data is stable? Is there any corruption or dropouts or kind of compromise?
Um, it kind of fails 20 to 30% of the time, but then I think it's just the player crapping out because I go back again later with the same disc and don't have any problems. So, hasn't been too bad as far as I can tell.
What's the nature of the failure? It just won't load and play, period? So it's not like you get garbled, digi noise, it just won't
No, it
play,
like
period?
it stops and seems to maybe like just pause basically
Hmm,
and restart at the same point even. But I've been able to get around that with most of the stuff, which I don't really probably want anybody to ever listen to for the most part. Anyway.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I transferred them all to CDR as I was actually recording them, because I don't have a functional player anymore. I couldn't even de-archive my mini discs if I wanted to, even though I still have them in
Right.
boxes in the closet. So did you record the orchestra at all?
No,
No?
no, I never would have seen them in that period. I don't know when the first time I saw them was. I think it was after like 2015 or something.
Okay.
Not really that long ago. I saw Marshall and Danny play a show in Detroit with a couple of local guys. I think it was before that. I'm not sure what year that was though.
What was that billed as? Do you remember?
Um, I think it's just Marshall Allen and Danny Ray Thompson.
Okay. It's always fun to see Marshall, outside of the orchestra role and the big band atmosphere, in smaller groups.
I want to
Always.
say it was Jaribu Shahid and Jala Jakate, but I'm not sure about that lineup.
Oh,
It's like a
interesting.
one-off at Trina's House in Detroit.
Interesting.
I could probably look that one up. It's in the internet era.
So I'm looking over at our chat. Just want to say welcome and greetings to everyone that's joining us, either in the chat or watching and not in the chat. We've got Mr. Blass, we've got Mr. Hines, we've got Mr. Marcus, we've got Steve Prop in the house. We've got Mikkel.com. We've got James Shelby. Greetings. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. So Jason, when you're taking these CDs or these FLACs and you're ripping them and getting ready to put them on YouTube, what's your process like? Are you doing any additional editing or remastering? Are you putting the recordings up straight as you have them?
Pretty much putting them up straight as I have them. Um, for my radio show, I touched things up a little bit, did some kind of aggressive remastering sort of things.
Yep.
Because over the summer, I did 15 episodes of hour-long pre-recorded show that I was calling Interplanetary Music Sunrise on the Air, and it was all unreleased material. I kind of started off intending to do thematic shows. Let's did a Duke Ellington show to start off and show us standards, but with the weekly time pressure, it kind of ended up being more just a show a week condensed into an hour. But
And those are all available on your YouTube channel.
all the ones from the summer are up
Yep.
on the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So for our watchers, listeners, if you go to youtube.com at Intergalaxtic with an X, the interplanetary music series that Jason presented on the radio, WCBN and Arbor. Those are all available. It looks like you did about a baker's dozen or so. Is that
Yeah,
right?
15 of them.
Okay. And they're all thematic. So episode 1, Duke Ellington. Episode 2, Standards. Episode 3, Lugano 90. Disney Concert from Santa Cruz 89. So a large range of subject matter. So everyone check those out.
Yeah, mostly 80s stuff. I did 2 Disney shows, which together I think are a pretty nice representation of that material for interested parties. That's fun.
So you haven't included, if I'm sure actually you're all very well aware of Jason's channel. I included the link in the show notes on YouTube for any of you that are looking for it, and I'm going to put it in the chat here too. Um, so, let's see here. You've got 646 subscribers. Congratulations. It's a lot of that's a healthy number of rare Sun Ra fans. What's your engagement like with your channel? Do you get a lot of communication from your viewers and feedback, or
Um,
how do you gauge your engagement?
I don't get a whole lot of feedback really. It's just comment a day or so. Um, and I usually post something. I post it every Sunday, and I usually get 100 views within the next first couple days. So that's really the only thing I look at, and I've got it all. I set this all up in last March. Kind of had an intense period of processing everything and uploading it, so it's just scheduled out for like the whole year. So on a weekly basis, I don't really have much to do.
Hmm. So are you constantly on the lookout for new material? Are you hunting down leads, or people contacting you and saying, "Hey, I've got this recording. I should send it to you, and you should put it on your channel"?
Not too much. I was kind of hoping for more of that with that, putting it all out there in the world. I might get a little bit more back, but not a whole lot has materialized that way.
Okay, interesting. Um, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, but I mean, I guess I'm not
I guess
surprised.
that I
We're a
asked the
small
universe for
community.
that 86 show and it arrived. So,
What are there any other wish list items that you have that you would really, really love to find that you haven't been able to so far?
um, yeah, there's this show, this 1987 Caravan of Dreams show that I have like a edited radio broadcast of,
Hmm.
and I think there should be a better copy of that whole show somewhere.
Yeah, that's a really good show, as I recall.
Yeah, the really great version of Beautiful Love in particular, and a fun version of I can't think of what it is now. Paper Moon,
Mm.
some space themed ad libs on Paper Moon. Right.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've listened to that. So that's June 25th, 1987, from the
Yeah.
Caravan of Dreams, Fort Worth, Texas. And it was broadcast on FM. And that's the only version that I've ever come across.
Is it
Um,
with just like the the announcers kind of cut out?
correct, correct. It's set one only,
Yeah.
10 tracks, set one only from an FM to cassette recording. So as far as I'm aware, yeah, I mean, either a direct pre-FM copy or an alternate audience version or uncut soundboard has not made it out into trader circles. At least, I mean, maybe it's in some collections. So if anybody out there has access to June 25th, 1987 Caravan of Dreams from Fort Worth, Texas, please get in touch with myself or Jason at Intergalactic Music. Um, yeah, that is a really fun show. The Paper Moon is really cool. The Beautiful Love is really good. Um, and there's a lot of ambience to that recording. And that was just, I don't know. There's a bunch of shows from '87 that kind of have a special place in my heart because they were pretty widely available when I first started trading, and the band was playing a lot, um, and just putting on some really nice shows. Um, kind of in that year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of material that didn't really make it onto those late '80s studio albums. Um,
Anything like top of mind for you that you're thinking of? Any songs in particular that you wished had an official release that didn't?
oh, I don't. So hard to keep track of what's been officially released nowadays.
Yep. I
Uh,
was just curious if there was one in particular that was like a favorite that you've always wished there was another version of or a better quality version of.
well, that beautiful love from that show is I like that a lot better than the one that's on the album for sure.
Yeah, and there are actually a bunch of
Yeah,
really great live versions of that from the era. Sun Ra really seemed to um, connect emotionally with delivering that song. Seemed to mean a lot.
yeah.
All right, so there's a wish list item, throwing it out to the universe. June 25th, 1987, Caravan of Dreams.
And then September 23rd, 1978, another Ann Arbor Hill Auditorium show.
Interesting. So, do you just are you aware of the date having happened and are unsure if a recording exists, or is there a recording out there that just hasn't surfaced?
I'm pretty sure that there is a recording of it, but I don't know if it has surfaced at all.
Do you have any idea what the source of that is? Is it audience or was it
It would have been FM. It
FM?
would have been broadcast on the radio station. Maybe the Detroit station at that time would have even broadcast it.
So September 23rd, 78, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that date's right.
I've never come across that one either. But the one that, that kind of shows what that September 23rd date might have sounded like was, there's a pretty well-known recording from 2 days afterwards on the 25th at the Happy Medium Disco in Chicago. That's a great show.
Yeah, that one. Did Leo put that out on a CD?
I believe they did. I never got the Leo version because my understanding it was just they just ported over basically the version that we were all trading and just re re re-released what was already available for free with among traders.
Yeah.
Have you heard differently? Do you have that, Leo?
I've got it. Yeah.
And have you compared it to the other versions floating around? Is it an upgrade or?
I don't know. I haven't done a comparison. I wouldn't imagine that it's any different. Probably has misspellings on the liner notes.
So are there any kind of other types of shows like your radio show, the Sun Ra Interplanetary Music Series, or any little hidden gems and nuggets on your channel that you want people to know about that you can tell by the views people are missing? Any clues for nuggets we should be looking for?
Um, well, this record, the Space Aura that Art Yard put out on a 10-inch.
Yep.
And so this says recorded May 1966, University of Buffalo, engineered by David B. Jones. And at the end of it is a partial version of Exotic Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And on um, the complete Nothing Is um, double CD that came out, which is also up on the Bandcamp under just St. Lawrence University 1966.
Mm-hmm.
There's at the very end is a incomplete version of the Exotic Forest. And they are the same version, it turns out. So I synced them up and with some overlap that makes a complete take of it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, cool.
So
I haven't stumbled on that.
I don't know if that's well known or not, but I have an edit of that up, which isn't really. There's another version of it from the album
Mm-hmm.
already,
Oh,
but it's kind of interesting to get that full take, and so I kind of suspect that maybe that all that bonus material is actually from the Buffalo show rather than it's labeled as like another set in St. Lawrence University.
right. Interesting. And that so that complete nothing is that was curated and put together under Michael Anderson's direction for ESP Records.
That's right. Yeah, I
Yep.
haven't asked him about it. I should probably contact him and see what he thinks about that theory. But at least that partial take there must be coming from the
Oh, that's fascinating.
show.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the tip. I'm gonna definitely check that out tonight because no, I hadn't stumbled on that. Any other things like that where you've done edits of source material that's from the same session, kind of that you've discovered, or any other little treats like that that you've put together and stumbled across? I
Well,
know
I've
we.
got an edit that I did of the Africa, which various people have done themselves. It's kind of
Yeah.
a fun little exercise because it's just two edit points to that you gotta find and insert. But my version of that's up on there.
Okay.
Possible, I think. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's so much stuff. It's hard to keep track of it all, and I tend to be like I think you kind of said that you go through phases where you're like really intensely into the music and
Yeah.
studying some particular aspect of it. So I'm kind of a little bit out of that mode right at the moment, but
Yep. Understood.
pretty
Yeah, the
soon.
music gives a lot of energy, but it also takes a lot of energy if you're going to get involved at that level because there's just such a huge volume of work that needs to be done to do something like curate your channel.
Yeah, I do it pretty fast. I tend to move through it. I'll listen to it at work, a couple shows a day. So I work through like 10 shows a week and preview them. And, you know, I just only do really a minimal amount of quality control.
Okay.
Mess with the set list if I can.
So are are you basically working from things that you've already collected, or do you continue to collect and trade and look for torrents and things like that?
I got most of it in one fell swoop on on SoulSeek.
Okay.
Gotten things from different places, but a pretty big collection that had passed around a few.
Okay. I'm
Um,
not
you know,
familiar with that app.
kind of third hand.
Yeah.
But there's certainly a whole lot that's gone on in the history of getting this music, streamable on YouTube, and I'm just kind of a tiny piece of the puzzle that somebody had collected up
Yep.
everything they could find on torrents, and some people before that, transferring tapes and figuring out which is the master and you know best version of the tape, and getting a good transfer of it, and showing up with the tape recorder at the show in the first place, and managing to correctly label it and archive it. So
Yeah, we all have our part to play for sure, and that's it's enjoyable, and it's enjoyable, but it's also very appreciated. Everybody that has come in the chain before, that has done all of that makes it possible for you to do what you do. So yeah, it's a fascinating history and community. So so how much more do you have to do on your channel before the well of your Sun Ra archive runs dry?
probably a couple more years.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
at a show a week,
show a week. Yeah,
couple more years. Wow, wow, that's
might get kind of
incredible.
hairy.
What's that?
It might get kind of hairy, sound quality wise.
Yeah. So are you prioritizing by best quality first?
Vaguely, kind of really just picking stuff at random, but kind of browse a little bit for sound quality, and then I listen to everything before before it gets scheduled. So I make sure that it's not like corrupted.
Mhm. Now, how are you how what's your process as far as uploading, to YouTube? Are you uploading audio files and it's creating the video, or are you creating the videos yourself and uploading an MP4 file?
Yeah, I make videos and upload the MP4 file
Okay,
in kind of the stupidest way possible in iMovie.
okay. I mean, I'm really not a video technician as far as YouTube goes. I'm not even sure if that's a possibility to just upload an audio file and it'll generate a video for you. I just assumed you had to make, an MP4 video file to get it on the, platform.
Yeah, there's a couple of like third party sites that you can upload audio and the picture and it'll do it for you. I think the end product is basically the same, but
Yeah,
I haven't messed with that really. I just continually delete them off of my hard drive once I've uploaded them.
gotcha. So, um, have you ever gotten any particularly like surprising, fun comments on any of your videos, like from band members or anything that's like really surprised you?
Oh, I don't know. There's a couple like esteemed Sun Ra scholars that are on there that comment. Dr. Stanley and uh, Michael Shore,
Mm. Oh, interesting.
who
Interesting.
mostly know from writing maybe some of the evidence liner notes.
Sure.
But he's always got really good uh, stuff to say.
Interesting. I'll have to check out the comments. I believe Michael Shore um, is a writer and broadcaster that goes back in some professional capacity, to the 80s or so as far as his involvement talking about and promoting the orchestra.
Yeah, I know. I definitely saw him some ridiculous number of times,
Right.
and he's just really able to ID songs really well. I can't always do.
Let's see. I'm going to look over at the chat here. It's I always let the chat go by and don't pay attention because I'm talking to talking to you. See what people have to say here. Charles says to thank you, Jason, for your amazing service, which
Oh,
is high praise.
yeah. Thank you for all your service over
Yes.
all these years.
Let's see. Who else do we have in the chat here? Brad, yes, you hear Space Aura from Slugs Saloon, late 60s. James Shelby. Oh, welcome and greetings, Anita. We have Anita Travels, Anita Abraham joining. Thank you. The world is watching. Indeed. Let's see. Charles talks about the Kumba Jazz Center, California, May 87, as being a good 87 show featuring TC3 on vocals. Brad talks about Paper Moon being sung by TC3.
GC3, yeah.
Yep. Sat in with the orchestra in 2018 in Philadelphia. I didn't know that they were still around. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I saw him post something on Facebook. It's still performing, I believe. Uh, you know his name, Carney.
No, no.
PC3 is the preferred one.
Brad, Professor Marcus says that his wish list item is Montreal, Canada, 1961 recording. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
would love to hear that. Ricky Murray on vocals in between Chicago, right before New York. I've often wondered if any of those shows were recorded. I wonder if the band would have traveled with their reel to reel because I'm not sure Tommy Hunter was on that trip. Tommy joined them in New York City, I believe, after the Montreal trip. So the chance of those recordings being made in 61, who knows? Charles says in 87, the orchestra played regularly at the Bottom Line in New York City. Some shows with TC3. Yep. Brad says another wish list item is Festac 77. Agreed. Festac, I believe, was the African Music Festival. I believe Fela Kuti played at that show too, perhaps. Steve Prop says he's looking for Blackstone 82. They played 6 shows. He was at 2 of them, had many synthesizers and keyboards. Blackstone, I believe, is in Chicago. '82. I've never seen those shows circulating. I believe the Blackstone from, what is it, 1989, 1990. Some of those recordings circulate from that residency. Charles, I think this is probably a wish list item. The 100-piece orchestra that played in New York City, I believe. What year was that, Charles? I remember my friend Richard Segan talking about that as being one of the highlights of his orchestra concerts. And Sun Ra had 100 members in the orchestra. Believe that was in the park, maybe. Please let us know, Charles. Yeah, that would be cool to hear. I can't imagine. Let's see what other comments we got going here. Hundred-piece orchestra. Brad says there was one in '67, another in '84, I believe. Interesting. I hadn't heard of the '67, and I thought the one in the '80s was later in the decade.
100-piece orchestra in '67. You saying?
That it appears so. I mean, I'm jumping into the chat kind of like as it's been going on the side, and I haven't been paying attention, but I believe that's what Brad's saying. I wasn't aware of a '60s one, but I was aware of one in the '80s. And as far as I know, no recording of that circulates or survives. Anita says L Saturn Records, the label is currently owned by Infinity Incorporated, where Anita A. Abraham is the president. And it looks like there's a Wikipedia link in the chat for those of you to check out. North Scenic Route just got in the chat a little while ago. Welcome, North Scenic Route. Check out their YouTube channel. He says, much respect, Jason. He said, love the Boston and late 70s stuff you put out. North Scenic is also an artist and a musician in their right, and has all kinds of music on their channel, but some really cool Sun Ra influence pieces. Let's see what else. TC Carney, says Brad.
TC Carney, right?
TC Carney. Brad always knows the answer. 84, says Charles, is the one he missed, the 100-piece orchestra. Steve Prop says Sun Ra told me he wanted a 1,000-piece orchestra at Soldier Field, 300 drummers. Of course he did. How he wasn't able to pull that off is, I don't know. That's a real shame for the planet. Anita says it's not only about promoting the orchestra, but the history of the orchestra. Anita, I think everybody here would be in complete and total agreement. And that's part of the story we're trying to learn about as time goes on. And as you are well aware, a lot of that history is occulted, obscured, hidden, and lost to the wind and sands of time. So if you can do anything to help educate us and fill in that story, we all want to know. It's just that information's very, very hard to come by. So I'm glad you're here and thank you for what you do. Charles says, Jason, please talk more about the transcription project. I'm guessing, Charles, can you let us know? Are you referring to the mini disc transcription project?
I think the poetry.
Oh, poetry. Myth science. Yeah, is anything else you can tell us about that, Jason? Charles is interested in hearing.
Well, basically just transcribing everything that's on the Norton LPs, Space Poetry LPs, which is all in the This Planet is Doomed book, but that book wasn't really that well edited, and so it doesn't have a table of contents or index, and it's got different titles for each poem than what's on the track list of the LP, which is often also different from the published version, that can be found in the Geark and Wolf. So I have a couple tables that cross-reference the three sources, and then I have like half of the poems transcribed, kind of redone. So sort of corrected what's in the book. Um, but I haven't worked on it in a little while, so I don't know what it's going to end up looking like.
How is that process for you? Like, is that something you have experience with? Is it incredibly cumbersome and time consuming, or do you have a talent for that? Because I know, having done transcription work myself, it's incredibly time consuming, and you need to do it correctly. You need to do many, many, many passes of the material for
Right.
the
Yeah.
quality assurance that you're sounds like you're going for.
Yeah, and some of the things he says aren't that clear, so it's understandable that there be some, transcription errors anytime you do a project like that. But yeah, I don't know. I probably don't do it very efficiently. It takes a lot of passes, and um, I haven't quite figured out how to do it if I'm going to actually finish it, which I never really intended to do.
So what do you mean you haven't quite figured out how to do it? How to do it efficiently in a way that's it's achievable to finish the project, or what do
Yeah,
you mean?
I guess I once I have it all laid out, I'll be able to, because kind of what I'm going for is to be able to listen to the records and have everything on the page at the same time, because they're
Right.
kind of mismatched, even though Norton did both of them, sort of separate projects, as I understand.
Okay. And did you have any contact with Norton, or the curators that put those collections together? Did you reach out to them when you were doing the transcription work
No,
with
I haven't reached
questions?
out to them at all. Like I said, I just kind of let my private activity of studying the material.
Yeah. So is there anything that you have recognized or noticed in doing that work, as far as the translation from the spoken to the written word, and Sun Ra's pronunciation and syntax, like any kind of clues to the equations that you come across, or any things that you find are hard to transcribe from his spoken word onto the paper that gets lost in translation?
Um, yeah, there's kind of a lot of like wordplay that you maybe miss spoken, like different spellings of words and things.
Mhm.
So I've kind of maybe got my own interpretation on some of them, but can't think of a great example. I think it was rights and rights, Rights and Rites that was backwards in the Norton book. Um, from the way I thought it should be, at least.
Mhm. So you are you a musician as well?
Yeah, I'm a musician.
How long have you been playing for? What's your main instrument?
Um, mainly I play bass, I guess I would say. Started playing guitar when I was like 14 or so.
Okay.
Uh,
So the reason I ask is, what's the musical relationship to the poetry that you see? Like, I get a really strong sense that the composition of the written word and the musical note are coming from a very similar place with Sun Ra. Like, what's your feelings about that? You see any correlation, or do you see them as being distinctly different practices for him?
I think both they're pretty distinct. Even when they're combined. Um, like some of these radio shows where he's got pre-recorded orchestra behind him reading poetry.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to keep it as a distinct sphere, but I think his approach to kind of composition and um, in poetry and music composition are pretty similar. Um, sort of said that, and his my music is words. Little essay, which I think that was that from the Cricket originally.
I don't recall.
I think it was.
Cricket. Yeah, I don't recall.
You've seen that Cricket, the Blank Forms did a reproduction of all 4 issues of the Cricket, like last year. It's
Huh.
really nice
That's
book, which
really not ringing a bell for me.
has some poetry by Sun Ra and a couple essays, a couple things about Sun Ra and Mary Baraka and uh, spacing on who all did it, A.B. Spellman and I'll get the other guys. Larry Neal. Could be wrong about those three. But that's a really cool publication, even though all the stuff by Sun Ra is included in the.
Oh, I'll have to look out for that. I missed that.
And they're putting out Abdul. Uh, they're putting out the memoir by Ahmed Abdullah
Oh, okay. I'm really looking forward to that.
later this year.
I'm really looking forward to that. So, who did that painting of Sun Ra behind you?
This is my friend Adam Winnie. Who's based in Georgia now. He did a series of paintings of people that inspired him. I don't know, there might have been like 20 of these, maybe 14, 13, something like that. So I also have Alejandro Jodorowsky, and a friend of mine has John Cage and um, Shel Silverstein, I think.
Oh, yeah. Neat.
And then I don't remember who all else was in it. I think Tristan Zara and some other more art type people.
Yeah, it's a nice piece. It looks really big at that angle. What's the dimensions of that?
It's 4x4.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks twice as big this angle. Looks very impressive and imposing. Is it what is it? Acrylic or oil?
It's oil painting.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like Still from Space is the Place. Is that right?
I'm not sure what the source photo is.
Yeah, it looks like the scene in the Imaginary Club de Lisa where he's playing the piano.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but the sunglasses and the jacket kind of looks like it. Very cool. Very cool. So everybody, I'm sure you're already subscribed and following Jason's Intergalactic Rare Sun Ra YouTube channel, but by all means, if you're not, please head right over there. I'll put the link in the chat again. And those wish list shows that Jason mentioned and our friends in the chat mentioned, if anyone out there has those, by all means, please get in touch so the music can be shared with the world and work its vibrational magic. And yeah, if you have any wish list items or feedback for Jason, please put them in the comments in the future too. So, Jason, is there anything that I forgot to ask that you think everybody should know about the Intergalactic channel and your radio show? Can you give the call letters? Are you still on the air now?
on WCBN. So
Yeah.
I changed the name from Interplanetary Music to Intergalactic Music.
Okay.
Sunrise on the air, and I'm on the first Wednesday of each month from 2 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
for the next few months at least.
And
Um,
are those broadcasts streaming in real time as they happen?
the streaming online at WCBN.org, and I don't know. I didn't put the last one up on YouTube. I kind of haven't decided if I'm going to put them up on YouTube because I'm playing, um, new releases, um,
Right.
the official stuff now on this new iteration of it. So it might just only be available for live streaming.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us this evening, and I appreciate everything you do as far as sharing the music and all the good energy that you put out there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you doing this live stream. How do you think it's been going?
I've had a lot of fun, you know. I mean, I think that the reaction has been positive, and I mean, I think if there was any mystery about what a small and dedicated crew of people we are, the stream just solidifies that. But I mean, I think as anybody that kind of sees what I do over the years, the pattern is that I try different things, try different mediums, have phases where we're really active, and then we go into hibernation. And I think the streams have been a really interesting thing to explore, and I hope it's been of value to the community. It seems to have been,
Yeah, I think
but
so.
at some point, like all things, if the feedback loop isn't closed, I think we're going to run out of people to talk to. And quite honestly, I'm not sure that anybody wants to watch me ramble on for a couple hours every week. So I'll be curious to see, you know, um, whether this is just kind of a short-term exercise until the next thing comes along, or whether this is going to have any legs to it. And that's, I mean, that really is based on the community and what they want. So, but I'm really glad that I got a chance to meet and get to know and talk to you, because I think for me you're a really key person in kind of like the contemporary online Sun Ra landscape. So it's fun for me to hear your process, and it's important, I think, to just in case anybody hasn't found your hundreds of
Go to
Sun Ra
the
videos out there that
Bandcamp and listen to those like couple hundred hours of Sun Ra a bunch of times first, and then if you still want more, come and check out my YouTube channel. And it's, you can do a deeper dive there, but
yeah, we're very lucky in that regards. This is the I mean, other than as far as the recorded legacy of the band, this is the best it's ever been. I never dreamed that have access and be able to hear as much of this music as we have. And
yeah,
I really look forward to the future, and I really hope that um, the access and the technology and the momentum encourages people to jump in and kind of do what you're doing, because I'd be curious what your kind of gut is. But I think, we laugh about all of the music that we have and all the records. I think that there's still hundreds of shows and recordings and tapes still out there that we have no idea about, that have never been heard or shared, that are still waiting, um, to be shared and heard. And I hope we get a chance to hear more in the future.
yeah. There's got to be a lot more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more. I think, like a lot of the collecting communities, the Sun Ra communities is particularly um, protective and caring about the material, and holds it very close. Um, Holds it very close. So I think that there's a lot of mystery and discovery still out there waiting for us. So if any of you out there have them, please get in touch and get in touch with Jason, and think about sharing them and archiving them for posterity so they don't get lost to time. Just when we're getting ready to sign off and leave, I see a face popping up. Brad Marcus is going to join us for the sign off. How you doing, Brad?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, wonderful. Space greetings, galactic hope for the future, because Sun Ra and Alton Abraham and the band members sacrificed a lot so we can move forward to the 21st century greatness.
Indeed.
Yes, thank both of you for historically archiving the orchestra's work, because they spent so much time in studios, in rehearsal, which Danny would always say, you better not miss the rehearsal. And concerts, they spent like millions of hours probably playing that music to change the planet, or attempt to change it anyway.
Yeah, and getting to hear the recordings is a really important part of that, for those of us that are touched by it. And I mean,
Yes.
just that fundamental idea of changing, trying to change our mood, change our reality, change our surroundings, the vibrations. It's good for them to be rebroadcast and replayed so that they can revibrate again, but they're all still out there somewhere.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's in the energy. It's like once you put the sound out there, it's in the universe somewhere. What they call the Akashic records, I guess you could call it that.
Yep, absolutely.
So I want to give a shout out to all the people in the chat. I got my friend Steve Glavman there, Charles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I invited Steve. So
That's who Steve Prop is.
yes, exactly.
Make the connection. Steve.
Exactly. He spent a lot of hours documenting Sun Ra and hanging out with him and helping the band and all kind of stuff. I want to get him on your show, so you guys have to figure out how to get in touch with him. And
you're always welcome, Steve. Anytime.
who else? Charles Blass, I visited him, and he visited us here in Chicago when they had the Alton Abraham exhibit at the Hyde Park Arts Center. He came in town, and I met him then. And then I visited with him in New York. So, and Anita Abraham, who's a family member of Alton Abraham, her father was Alton's brother. So she grew up around Sun Ra and orchestra members when she was younger, before they moved out of Chicago, and even later, because Sun Ra would come and visit Chicago, and the band members would sometimes stay at Alton's house or at John Gilmore's house. That's how they did it then. So.
Yeah, I was very, very grateful to see Anita's name pop up in the chat. I hope, Anita, that in the future you continue to share and talk about the work that you're doing and teach us more.
Yeah. Vision I have is for her work and then the orchestra current, incarnation to somehow, work together in some kind of way. Because when Saturn Research and Infinity Incorporated were kind of put together in the 60s, it was more than just the music performances. There was a lot of visions as far as community building, even something that would reach all humanity. So that's what I want to see happen before I leave the planet, so, or at least put it into motion. So those of us here that are preserving the legacy are like the bridge between the future, whatever happens then, and what has happened in the past when Sonny was here. So.
Yep.
And everybody
feel
should
that as well, Jason?
Support
In the-
Marshall Allen while he's
Yeah,
here.
always. Do you feel that kind of call as well, Jason, in what you do, that like in your enjoyment of the music that you feel some drive or sense greater purpose to make sure that the music is shared and archived and taken care of so that other people can enjoy it as well?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the spirit behind my whole thing, both the radio show and the YouTube channel. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
just making it available for anybody that might want to listen to it. And, you know, it just gets, even as blessed as we are with the like recorded albums of Sun Ra, there's so much even more than that of all these performances around the world, all different and all, you know, with unique vibrations.
Yep. Yeah, in my experience, and I'm trying not to be biased, but I think that there's a particularly high quotient in the Sun Rock community of music fans um, that are drawn to the music, that are also communicators, broadcasts, artists, musicians, authors, painters themselves. Like just the amount of radio people that gravitate towards Sun Ra and feel the desire to make sure that the music's played on the radio, that the band, gets booked at the colleges and played on local jazz programs and stuff is really high compared to other artists and other group fan communities.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are fans that are really kind of at that next level of furthering the communication, which I think is really impressive and unique for the Sun Rock community. Not really a lot of people that aren't just passive fans, really engaged. All right, gentlemen, any closing thoughts before we sign off for the night? Brad?
I want to read a couple of Sun Ra declamations or proclamations they're in Alton Abraham's collection, and they're from the 70s, and they're really deep.
Please do.
Here's one. It says, I have come to bring you love in music. I have come to restore the citizenship of the fallen black angels who fell from heaven. Black angels who fell from heaven and seek to be equal to man. I forbid you to be equal to man. Listen to me, you black angels. I have come to offer you citizenship in the outer universe. There's more to it, but there's a bunch of them. They're really deep. So.
Very nice. Any others you'd like to read?
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, there's more of those. Hold on, I got them all here written down.
So these are from the Alton Abraham collection that you visited and you transcribed these, or are these?
Yeah, I wrote them down. They're typewritten in a folder, and they're mostly from the early 1970s.
Okay.
Yes, and I've never seen these particular ones on any recordings that I've heard yet. So one said Black Music Conference for 1973, Amherst College. Another one says it was at the Apollo Theater. There's a few other ones, so I don't have them all organized in one place here, but It's deep, man. It says, don't you know what kind of world this is yet? It is a world of self-disguise and lies. And the more lies that you ask for, the more death and destruction you're going to get. Can you face the truth that the meaning of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in whatever condition you're in, that's the meaning of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What do you know about happiness? What do you know? If I told you I was from outer space, you wouldn't believe a word I said. People have heard that one already. I've just told you the greatest of truths. What are you going to do with your freedom now that I have just freed you? And so you've been saying for Pharaoh to let my people go. Well, I'm old Pharaoh, and I'm.
Well, we lost Brad.
Uh-oh.
The spinning ball,
Well,
the outer darkness,
oh no.
the blackness. Calling planet Earth. Well, on that note, Jason, thank you again for your time
Yeah,
tonight.
thank
Really
you for having
appreciate
me.
it.
You have anything lined up for next week?
No, you are the pinnacle of this last 6 weeks or so, and yeah, nothing lined up, and we'll see if any of you have suggestions of guests or people you want to put us in touch with. By all means, please do. But we're just gonna sit back and take it from here, see what presents itself.
All right. Thanks for
All
having me
right.
on.
All right. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend, everyone. Space is the place.